Magic having left. 60.
I've been sitting here watching, the 1989 darts World Finals between Eric Bristow and Jockey Wilson. Yeah, I kind of do that once in a while. I was in England in 1980 for a while. While I was there, I remember watching Jockey Wilson on British TV throwing darts. The guy was, he's from Scotland, and the guy was phenomenal. It seemed like the more beer he drank during the matches, the better he threw. Anyway, I've heard, over the years they've stopped the beer drinking during the darts competition because it was putting up a bad image or something like that. Anyway, let's get working on this radio again. I've done a little bit of comparison of the bottom of the chassis to the parts location drawing. And I've also compared it to the schematic. And I have a revelation that I found. I compared it to the schematic here, all the parts and everything. And this is what's left of an electrolytic capacitor. It was 10 microfarad at 450 volts. According to the schematic, we've only got we've got 3 electrolytic capacitors. We have, where are they? Come on now. Okay, here we go. We've got one coming off the power supply here, which is at 8 microfarad. And we have another one right here, which is also at 8 microfarad. And then we have a 10 microfarad up here, rated at just 25 volts. Right here. Well, this is a 10 microfarad, according to what the label had. It's kind of difficult to make out a little bit, but I was able to make out that it's 10 microfarad at 450 volts. Well, when you see something in the chassis that says 10 microfarads at 25 volts up here, and then you look in here and you see 10 microfarads at 450 volts, right away, you begin to question, why is that 450 volts when it only should be 25? I'll tell you why, because somebody put that in there later on. The actual 10 microfarad 25 volt capacitor is down in here. That's it right down in there where I got that pencil pointed. Let me get that baby down here. See it? That's the 10 microfarad 25 volt capacitor. And the 2 8 microfarads are, one is in here in this can and the other is in this can. So, what does that lead us to believe? It leads us to believe that that thing needs to come out of there. It does not belong there. So what I'm going to do, somebody added it to quiet the radio down. It was probably making some noise, and they took it to a repairman, and he went ahead and put that baby in there. There's been no modification or addition anywhere that I could find in the paperwork. So we'll go ahead, see if I can't get that baby out of there. It's now gone. We don't need it anymore. Alright, that takes care of that. Now from here on out, we're going to go ahead and start with removing this mess. And then we're going to go ahead and take out the 2 electrolytics. Then, after I get a little more room to work on this chassis, especially by getting this electrolytic out of here, we're going to remove T1 and T2. I've got to be real careful with those. So let's start with this. Let's see if I can get this little screw out of the center. And then there's some set screws in the rear. You can see them down in there. And the set screws will remove the entire mechanism off the shaft of the variable capacitor. So let's do that. Alright, she came loose nice and easy. That's the way I like him. I like them coming loose nice and easy. Now we got to be real careful with that little needle there. This is something you just don't find very often laying around. So we're going to protect that. Then we're going to go ahead and take this off. And you'll see that we've got 2 lights, one on the bottom and one on the top. The way this thing works is, when you're on the broadcast band, this light here lights up. And when you go down to the shortwave band, which would be the bottom half of the scale, this area down here, when you go to the shortwave scale, the bottom light lights up. So you've got a line directly across, just like we did on the Atwater Kent 856 I showed you in one of my videos. Now comes the hard part. We got to get this collar off of here, and I hope I can do it. If I can't, we're going to have to hold off on the rest of this. But that collar has to come off there. It's got 2 rusty set screws. Wish me luck on that one. Now, in order to get to these set screws a little better, I'm going to have to get this light bulb out. And here's something I haven't seen before. This light bulb is held in there with a clip. Look at this. I did not know that. This clip has to come out. It's going to take 2 hands, but you can see it a little better on the clip down here. Let me get the light a little closer. See that clip right there? It's just a 3-legged clip, and it fits in that slot right there. Isn't that interesting? Let's see if I can pull that out. And that's all there is to it. A little clip that came straight out. Now let's see how this bulb comes out. Oh, I see. It held the entire bulb mechanism in. Aha! I didn't know that. The last Atwater Kent I worked on did not have that slot in there with that keeper. Let's get the bottom one out. Alright, I was able to get both of the set screws loose on this collar that holds the dial needle that the needle screws into, and that comes off. Got to be real careful with this booger. I think it's not like you can go downtown and get any of these. The 856 Atwater Kent I worked on, the only way I could get it off, I had to take a Burns-O-Matic and just apply all kinds of heat to it until it finally cracked loose. I was able to get those screws loose. They were just totally rusted in. Anyway, I was successful with that one, but that was a stroke of luck. I was kind of hoping we didn't have the same kind of problem with this. And we didn't. Good for us, huh? Alright, now comes this thing. I've removed the bulbs, by the way. Once you remove the clip, they just slip right out of the holes. Slip right out of those holes there on each side. Man, that thing is bent all to pieces. No wonder it was on there crooked. Gonna have to do some delicate straightening on that. This is the best part. You know, I like the part where you tear it apart. Just tear it up, tear it up. Okay, now we've got a wheel, a semicircle wheel with teeth on it. All the way around the edge. And there is a rubber wheel right here. If you want to call it rubber. As hard as a rock. Anyway, we're going to take loose these 2 set screws next and try to get that wheel out of there. I may have to take my trusty needle nose and break loose some of that rubber down there to make that thing clear. Let's see what we can do. Well, as I thought, these teeth, see, they engage with that rubber wheel. And then when you turn the tuning rod, that rubber wheel causes this wheel to go left and right, which operates your tuning capacitor. I've got it loose right now, but I can't get it out because it's caught up in a groove down there. So I'm going to have to take my pliers and pick away some of that old hard rubber. Unreal, huh? Alright, I got it clear, and in order to remove it from the shaft, you got to turn it all the way around because this part here would hit against this metal bracket right here if you didn't turn it all the way around where it was totally clear, and then she'll slide right off. Alright, we are making some progress. Now let's see what we can do by getting this mess off the front here. As you can see, the entire thing is connected to the tuning capacitor. We'll keep those. Anytime you're not actually working the radio or tuning it, always keep those blades engaged. You know, you start running around here with your capacitor plates sticking up in the air like that, you're going to wind up bending one of them, and it's a pain to get them back together. I mean, back flat. It can be done, but boy, I'll tell you what, it takes a long time. So always keep those things closed like that. It's no guarantee that you're going to, they're going to be safe, but they're a lot safer. Okay, so let's see if I can get that off. Well, she's off, but this is going to be quite a mess. I'm going to have to check with Adams Manufacturing and see if I can get one of those rubber bushings down there. This is all going to have to be cleaned, torn apart, and a new bushing put in there. I hope I can find one of those new rubber wheels. What it is, not a bushing. All right, there goes another part over in the boneyard, and you can see that the capacitor does turn now that we got it off. Let's see if we can't get the rest of this thing off. But first, I think I better work on these 2 filter cans. Now this filter cap is C19 and it has a clamp around it to hold it to the chassis, and I've loosened it up already. It's nice and loose now. Now let's go underneath and cut the wire off it. The C19 has a yellow wire going to it, so we'll just go ahead and clip that right there. We're going to have to change every wire underneath it. Anyway, that yellow wire worms its way around here and connects over here to R4. Right there. The second one on that board that had the 4 mounted on it. And if you look for, here's R4 right here. If you come down and come across, you'll see that it comes down and connects right here into C19. And I wrote down yellow wire on the schematic so I know what wire that is. I'll know, but you know, just in case. Alright, the screw's loose, the wire's cut. Let's get to, there it is. It just come right on out. Look at there. Feels empty inside. Probably at one time it had liquid. But not anymore. Alright, let's work on this one over here. Now this one's a little bit different. You'll notice there's no clamp holding it to the chassis. Let's go underneath and find out why. Alright, here's why. It's got a big old nut. Great big giant old nut holding it on underneath the chassis. It's one of those threaded cans. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut this red wire. Now this red wire, it's only got one wire going to this can, which is really nice. It's got a red wire that runs over and hooks to what's left of the speaker plug right here. Kind of messed up, the little speaker plug is. Glad I'm going to be converting over. I won't have need of that speaker plug. We're just going to run some wires out the rear to the new permanent magnet speaker. So if we look on our schematic once again, let me see. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this very well. However, right here is that capacitor in the can, and the red, and this wire goes over and connects to the speaker plug right there. And it's a red wire, so I'm going to write red wire there so I can kind of remember. And now I'm going to cut that red wire just like that. Okay? Now let's see if I can untwist that can from the top. I got to get that nut loose somehow. I may have to wind up taking a pair of needle nose and getting down in there and try to get, you know, nudge that thing loose. Once it cracks loose, I can just unscrew the can. And there it is. Let's see if we can't get it out now. Come on, baby. Come on out of there. There we go. We got her. And this one here had fluid, liquid in it at one time also. It would have been boric acid, I'm almost certain. Yeah, it did, because it's got a rubber stopper right there. They put those in there to keep the liquid in, but it's totally dried out, totally. Anyway, that's 2. Alright, we're going to take off T1. Now you kind of got to be real careful around these things. This thing is still a little loose. I picked up some super glue yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that together later. Probably tomorrow, I hope. Anyway, what we have here is a blue wire, you'll recall. A blue wire from T1 that runs over to the bottom of the tuning capacitor. There's also a blue wire that runs down below the chassis, and there's a black wire that comes off it that runs down below the chassis. And a black wire that runs from it back here over to T2. Connects those two together with the black wire. The black wire is a ground, okay? And that ground was that one up there. I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and clip this wire right here. We know that one's the one that goes to the capacitor. This one down here I will clip down below. That's this wire right here, this blue wire right here. We'll leave some of it hanging so we know where it goes. You know, we're not just going to be randomly clipping everything. Okay, there's that. That one's down. We'll leave this here, and we'll leave the other one on the other end of the coil so we'll know where it goes. Now the black one running over to the other coil, we'll just clip it right smack in the middle between the two and leave an end on both ends. Okay. Alright, that should do it. We should have our ground loose, our blue wire loose, wire to the capacitor loose, and the other ground wire that goes over and provides the ground for this coil. All they did was tie the two together for the ground. Now I have to go up underneath. There's a screw up under there that I have to loosen up in order to remove this first coil. A screw from the bottom holds both of them on the chassis. Oops, I forgot to clip the ground wire down here where it's connected to ground. Well, we can do that right here. We'll just reach up under there and clip it. It's connected to ground right there at that where these black wires are. See that shiny right there? That's the ground right there. This is soldered to the screw that holds the variable capacitor in. That's all. It's got a little tab sticking out. Now let's see what we've got. Now you got to be careful pulling this stuff up here. You want to pull it by the wire, not by the coil. Alright, never pull by the coil. Always pull by the wires. Well, there we go. Not too shabby. I think everybody can figure that one out when it comes time to put it back together. But it's going to take a lot of cleaning. I'm going to leave those wires in there until it's almost time to put it together. I'm going to leave them all on there because I'm going to take those wires off, put brand new ones on. One more thing about these coils, they were insulated from the chassis with a cardboard disc. Okay? We're going to make new discs. We're going to make them out of plastic. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and remove T2, and once we do that, that'll wrap up this video. And we'll come back next time and start on the variable capacitor, and we'll get the transformer off next time. You'll remember that on T2 there was a blue wire right here that went to the other side of the capacitor, down in there. Down inside there, it's soldered to the other side of the capacitor. So let's go ahead and clip that. Alright, that's loose now, I think. Yep, that's loose. Now, it also had a black wire that ran over here to T1. Well, I've already clipped that, so that's all that's there is a stub of that, okay? That leaves us with a red and a blue and a yellow wire that go down below the chassis. So let's go down underneath and see where those things go. Alright, by wiggling the wires and watching at the top, I found that this red wire comes down here to this band switch, and the blue wire also hooks to the band switch right here, the back band switch. So what we're going to do is go ahead and cut that one right there, and the red one right here. All these wires are going to have to be replaced. Now that leaves us with the yellow one. I'm going to have to trace that one out. I'll get back with you. Well, that was easy enough. There it is right there. That yellow wire goes to the front band switch. So we're going to go ahead and clip that one too. I'm going to get this baby loose. We want these things out of there. Alright, now all I got to do is take this little screwdriver and go up in there and turn that screw and unloosen that coil from the chassis. Alright, the coil is out, and of course there was one more long wire. Now we all know what that black long wire was. That was one of the wires. If you've been following the series so far, that was one of the wires that went off the chassis. Okay? One of the antenna wires. Well, that takes care of it, folks. By the way, put the screws back in the holes that hold these things to the chassis. Always a good idea to do that. Okay, not a bad start. We got both the filter caps off. We've got both of the coils off. And we've kind of scoped out things underneath. We got rid of a capacitor, it didn't belong there. Tomorrow we'll take this off, and I don't know, it all depends. I'm going to try to get both of these off tomorrow or the next day whenever I generate the next video. And here's all our parts that we took the front off. Not bad for a day's work. Anyway, some of you might be thinking, God, he'll never get that thing back together. Will he ever do it? I don't know, but we don't worry about these things. We worry about nothing. We do not worry about anything. I mean, if worse comes to worse, I can always box it up and send it to my buddy Brendan up there in Detroit. He's been chomping at the bit to restore this thing anyway. Until next time, this is John.